Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Ripkema. I represent your local fire prevention team. Tonight I'd like to speak with you all for a few moments about how we can be safe with fire and prevent fire in our garage. I have here a bunch of products that you might have stored in your garage currently. Typical spray paint cans, there's some glass cleaners, lacquer thinners. I am always working in my garage. Every weekend, some work nights after I get home after dinner, always doing something in the garage. Most of the time it involves multiple processes, such as sometimes I might use a cut-off wheel, cut some metal that's generating some sparks. I might need to do a little torch work, soldering some pipe together. Pretty often I'll have out my welding equipment or my torch. I'll be modifying metal, and then I move on to cleaning and prepping that metal for paint, and eventually getting around to painting it. So some of the main things that we need to worry about or look at while we're working in our garage is where the chemicals are in relation to heat sources and sparks. If I'm over here working on my bench and I want to cut some metal, trim some pieces down or something, do I have a can of lacquer thinner sitting right next to where I'm going to be cutting? It's not a wise idea. In this particular, my garage, I have all of my chemicals stored on the far wall from my workbench with items that are between me and there. I always work as much as possible out in front of the garage when I need to cut metal, so the sparks and the flames from the torch or the soldering equipment are outside of the garage entirely. But I just use a metal rack, a storage shelf if you will, and place all my chemicals on the shelves. Well, sometimes that's not good enough. We need to, if we're working in a smaller, tighter garage, we may need to put all of those chemicals inside of a cabinet or a metal cabinet that provides a physical barrier between the chemicals and the outside area. In my garage I don't use one. I feel that with all my chemicals being stored on a shelf roughly 20 feet away, that should suffice, especially since most of my cutting and grinding happens outside where it's significantly more than 20 feet. It's closer to 40 feet from where I store my chemicals. But sometimes I do work inside the garage. If it's cold out or it's raining, I don't want to drag my metal parts or my projects out into the rain, because now they're going to be wet and they're going to be more difficult to work with. So I try to make sure that my chemicals are all put away and not scattered on my workbench where I'm going to be working. Some other things that we can use in the garage to help prevent fire is to not store our fuel cans in the garage. I know a lot of people will put gas cans or have their four-wheelers in the garage and they're full of fuel. Obviously you want to store those things out of the elements, but perhaps the shed is a better place for at least the fuel cans. The four-wheelers can fit in the garage just the same as a car would. They don't provide or pose any bigger hazard than a car in the garage. But the fuel cans themselves, they have vents to allow expansion and contraction with the different changes in temperature. Some of those gas fumes can seep out of there, and if you're working close by to those gas cans while you're cutting or grinding or using a torch, you could accidentally light yourself up or your garage. Another thing that we want to do is make sure that whenever we store trash bins in the garage, if there's high winds expected and we want to pull those trash bins in out of the elements so that they don't scatter our trash all down the street, make sure that there's nothing in your garage or in your trash bin that is hot. Like if you had just dumped some embers from your fireplace or your fire pit, make sure that those are completely soaked and out before you even put them in the trash bin to begin with, but especially before you bring your trash bin into your garage. Turkey frying. It's about that time of year. People are going to want to fry turkey for Thanksgiving or for Christmas or they're going to want to fry just any number of different things that is delicious. But don't do it in your garage. Inside use of frying machine or frying equipment is never smart, never a wise idea. Take it out away from your home, into the driveway, on your back patio, several feet from the house. You don't want to do that in the garage. That's about all the time we have tonight. I hope that this was helpful and useful to some of you. You have a good night.